It's on. The Democrats who want to be New Jersey's next governor battled it out on the stage of Rider University. So, did anyone come out on top? A very good morning to you. 7:03 is the time right now. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. More on that in just a moment. Right now, we head to meteorologist Mike Favetta with a first check of the Garden State forecast. Good morning to you, Mike.
Hey, Ken, good morning to you. Happy Monday. We've got a little bit
Happy
of fresh
Monday.
snow cover across most of New Jersey. Had that light round of snow through the northern half of the state. Dropped about an inch to an inch and a half across places anywhere from, say, I-78 north, giving a little fresh coating. And that's why temperatures are so cold this morning. 21 degrees right now. Waking up in Flemington, 30 in the brick city of Newark, 27 in Hackensack, and down the shore, 36 in Ship Bottom on LBI. With air temperatures that remain chilly, there's not a whole lot of wind. So with the wind gusts right now anywhere between 4 and 12 miles per hour. It's a calm, clear morning, but that just helps to aid in the overall chill. So wind chills aren't that terrible. They hold anywhere from the upper teens to the mid 20s. It's a little bit warmer than this time yesterday. It was cold yesterday morning, but of course that fresh snowpack making it seem a little more like winter as we take it into this afternoon. With lots of sunshine today, a few clouds returning later on this morning, I think we'll see a decent round of melting, especially on the car tops, on the pavement and paved surfaces as temperatures soar into the mid and upper 40s. It's going to be a much milder finish to the day with a few clouds developing. 47 in Wayne, 46 in Hackensack, and 48 up in Sussex. The next few days offering another round of chilly weather with a cold front that moves through tomorrow evening. Means we're back in the 30s for Wednesday, and that may promote another round of rain and snow to get us going for our Thursday morning commute. We'll give you all the details and break it down for you, Ken, with another check of your forecast. That's coming up as On New Jersey Mornings continues in a few minutes.
Plus, we have an exclusive interview with the groundhog. That's a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
other story. I know
Yep.
you're looking forward to that.
I've got him in chains here, tied up in my studio in the corner.
Just remind him of the two words there, ground hog. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
just saying. All right, meteorologist Mike Favetta, thank you so much. It is 7:05, and the six Democratic candidates who want to be New Jersey's next governor met on stage last night to battle it out in the hopes that one would rise above the rest in the primary race. Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, U.S. Representatives Josh Gottheimer and Mikey Sherrill, New Jersey Education Association President and former Montclair Mayor Sean Spiller, and former Senate President Steve Sweeney faced off at Rider University in the central New Jersey community of Lawrenceville. It was broadcast live here on New Jersey and was sponsored by the New Jersey Globe. New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein organized the event. Welcome to you, David. Good to have you on bright and early this morning. It was quite a challenging night for the candidates. There was a moment where some hands were raised. Let's take a listen.
Districts than we actually have mayors. We need to be talking about unified school districts. You can't have a district with just one school in them. There has to be at least in an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. You bring these school districts together, you begin to talk about what funding looks like. You need more kids in these seats, more kids in the schools. We have to get rid of segregation and integrate our schools so kids can be in these seats and we can get more money to municipalities. That's the bottom line. You're talking about people who are losing money. They're losing money for two reasons. They have less kids, right? Or the demographic of their city has changed. It's no longer Abbott. And so we have to figure out how to fund kids with special needs, how to fund English language learners, how to fund kids that are gifted, and begin to fund diversity in schools so schools are not segregated where most of the school is predominantly white or predominantly African American. We have to figure out how to create diversity in schools.
How does Ross Baraka stand there and debate when more money is spent per student in the city of Newark and has been for like decades, and they have some of the worst outcomes of education?
It's all in the eye of the beholder. He was a high school principal, and he's been there 10 years, and he's made some strides. I got to tell you, to me, watching this, it reminds me of he and I did a Zoom meeting, just sort of get to know each other better over the summer. And I remember one of the questions I asked him is, I said, Mayor, it takes you a long time to get going. How are you going to do it when you get a debate with 60 seconds? And he's learning. He came on pretty strong last night. That's what a lot of the chatter is this morning, is about Ras Baraka showed that a lot of people thought he was just some tough to get to know curmudgeon. He showed a lot of charisma, a lot of personality, a lot of compassion. It turned out to be a strong field, but uh, this part of it, Ken, I thought was really interesting, and I thank some of the volunteers at Ryder working with your crew from on Jersey, but they counted how much time all the candidates got in a nearly 2-hour debate, and Baraka was way ahead. He got 18 minutes of speaking time. That compares to 9 minutes that Mikey Sherrill had. So
Well,
you
I was going to say, tell us about some of the other key takeaways there, because as you point out, Mikey Sherrill, who on paper looks really, I mean, unbelievably impressive, but like you said, when it comes to the debate stage, things are different. So tell us
yeah,
about the takeaway there.
she is. It's hard to say front runner in the sense that these polls have shown her. Maybe she's ahead by a few points, and she's a great candidate, but she's ahead by a few points. Most people don't know who she is. Half the voters in that last poll are still undecided. She played it safe. She didn't take any risks at all. She came across as extraordinarily likable because she's extraordinarily likable. She's got a great story to tell, but she didn't go out on the edge at all to take any chances to maybe push some things out. And I think that 9 minutes may just be an indication of how safely she played the debate. It's that
Would
tree
you
falls in the woods things. If you don't
exactly?
say
You could be the
anything, you don't
greatest.
talk much, you don't get in trouble.
Yeah, you could be the greatest ever, but if nobody
Yeah.
knows you exist, forget about it. I'm just curious, David, because I know you are the political master. How would you rank them from moderate to progressive? How would you rank the six?
I think what you see there is I think you saw Sweeney. If is I don't want to go moderate to the end because they're all Democrats, but Sweeney closest to the moderate side, probably Gottheimer and Sherrill in that same category, and then you get Fulop and Sean Spiller, and Raz Baraka at that next level.
You mentioned you mentioned qualities, et cetera. The one thing that I think all of these candidates have, there's a huge likability among all of them.
Yeah,
You could be totally on the opposite end of the spectrum. You sit down and you talk to a Steve Fulop, you can't not like the guy. Mikey Sherrill, brilliant. Gottheimer, amazing to talk to. These are really good people. The thing is, though, will New Jersey people start diving or delving into the inner politics now that
yeah.
New Jersey feels like it's going toward Trump in a lot of ways? In other words, the guy comes knocking at your door, or the woman comes knocking at your door, smiles, and wow, that's a nice person. Are people now paying more attention to the politics?
Made it happen, and I can't thank him
Rate
enough.
keeps going up.
And I think it's a lot's going to be on who the Republicans nominate. If this were to be a race, think of all these different scenarios. If this is a Chitterelli Cheryl race. That's one combination. But what if it's Baraka and Spadia, and you
Mhm.
have really the ends of their party, a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, a proud liberal. It makes for this race to be really interesting.
That would, and they're both sort of on the aggressive side. Now, more than
Yeah,
not sort of, they are on the aggressive side. So that would be
they are. They are.
quite the debate.
I'll tell you. I've gotten to know. I'll stick with Baraka for a second. I probably knew him least of these candidates, uh, but and he gives he gives this aura of yeah, I may not agree with him, but I believe that he believes what he's saying. He stands for something. And we're living, you may see this on the Republican side tomorrow night. We're living in an era where people look at their polls, and the pollster says you should take these positions in order to strengthen your chance of getting reelected. Baraka he's not reading polls. He's just saying what he thinks. And, even if you don't agree with him on issues, you got to respect that authenticity that he puts out of, this is who I am. And, vote for me, don't vote for me, but this is what you're going to get if I'm elected governor.
The interesting thing, David, is for months and months leading up to this point, you didn't hear a word from Ross Baraka, and yet you did hear from Mikey Sherrill, you did hear from Gottheimer, like with the drones. They kind of saw ahead. Hey, we're going to be running. We better get out there and make our names a little higher in profile. And we heard nothing from Ross Baraka until about a week and a half ago, when there was the raid of that one business by ICE agents, and then all of a sudden he took the stage. Do you think we're going to be seeing a lot more from the candidates every time there's anything, especially involving something with ICE agents?
I do, and I think that's a great issue for him. It'll be a great issue for Steve Fulop, because he's the mayor of the second largest city, and this is going to happen in Jersey City also, with a large immigrant population. I mean, look, the reality is, the experiment that New Jersey had, this belief in the 47 Constitution, that if we go and we're one of 5 states that elects our governors in odd numbered years, it would mean that elections would be focused on state issues and not federal issues. That's just a load of crap right now. That's no longer the case. What happens in Washington goes to races in every state, local, and gubernatorial. And that's just the new world order. And we'll have to see where New Jersey stays on it.
All right, David Wildstein, let's do a quickie preview of what's ahead tomorrow night for the GOP. Talk about the 3 candidates and what you think we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting you say 3, because we almost forget one. It's Ed Durr. He's polling at 2%, but he was the guy who beat Sweeney on like $1,100. Nobody saw that coming. Durr's in this debate, but you've got John Bramnick, who is a proud moderate, a guy who was not for Trump in 16, wouldn't support him in 20, would not go for him in 24. This is a state legislator, never Trumper, saying I just don't like him, and I'm gonna stick to my guns. He's got to have a bigger field and some more smaller candidates getting in. But we'll see how he addresses that on the debate stage. And then you've got Bill Spadea, conservative radio host, known in parts of the state for his conservatism. And then you've got Chitterelli, who's making his 3rd run of governor. And it seems like a lot, but Jim Florio had to run, had to wait 3 times before he won. So it's happened before. This is probably, I think, one of the best gubernatorial races that I've seen in years. And Ken, I don't want to date myself, but I counted it last night. This is my 14th New Jersey governor's race.
Makes you 15 years old, so it's okay.
I was 12. Yeah.
But just quickly, you mentioned Florio. And I remember the late great Bob Grant on radio used to make fun of Florio, call him Punch Drunk Florio. He used to attack him nonstop, mercilessly. But nonetheless, you're right. After so many attempts, his name recognition got to a point. I think that's one of the problems with people who run for office in New Jersey is you have to get the Philadelphia TV market, you have to get the New York TV market, and get everybody together. But Philadelphia is worried about Philadelphia. New York's worried about New York, and the governor of New Jersey kind of gets washed sometimes in between.
Absolutely.
So now that you have a Jack Chitterelli, I think when Jack Chitterelli first came on the scene, everyone was like, Jack Sayatorulib. I mean, you didn't even know how to pronounce the guy's name.
Right.
Now that he came that close to winning this past election, I think that now that profile has been raised enough that you could see a Florio. Everywhere I see Jack Chitterelli show up, you got people cheering for him. There aren't any boos. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I think you're right. And I think this is, it's been a long time since it's been almost 64 years since New Jersey has elected one political party 3 times in a row. It's really interesting yesterday when the very first question that Joey Fox asked the candidates in the debate is, okay, you're going to follow fellow Democrat Phil Murphy. Give Phil Murphy a grade. And I mean, and they ranged. I'm going to read them. Steve Sweeney gave him a C. Spiller gave him a C plus. Fulop was a B minus. Cheryl and Gottheimer are Bs, and Baraka was a B plus. So there's not one Democratic gubernatorial candidate who gave Phil Murphy an A. And this is a governor who, among Democrats, has a huge approval rating. So I'm not really sure where that logic was. I was surprised one person didn't raise their hand and say, "I'm for Phil Murphy. I like Phil Murphy," because he's enormously popular among Democrats.
Could it be that they're just kind of hedging their bets so that if they're up against a conservative Republican who says the state was destroyed in this way, this way, and this way, they could say, well, I did not give him an A, I gave him a
Yeah,
C. This way,
yeah,
that gives them that little kind of leverage in between.
yeah. It may be that. It may be that simple.
Well, David Wildstein, I know you're exhausted, but we're going to want to talk to you more later, I'm sure. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Get a little bit of rest, and you could hear my
Yeah,
voice is shot too from
yeah, that's
watching
great.
up till the end. But it
And
was great to watch.
by the way, if you indulge me, shout out to the On New Jersey team that had been on the site setting up a remote studio, behind, backstage at a theater since Friday. I mean, they must have 50 people there working it. You guys are absolutely killing it, and
Well,
it's
we're
good to
loving it.
see. Thank-
Thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah, it's a hardworking crew, and believe me, they're full of passion. But thankfully, we have people like you as well that we can rely on to go to. Truly passionate New Jersey people. David Wildstein, editor of the New Jersey Globe. Check him out online. Your site is amazing. I
Thank you.
appreciate you every time you come on. Thank you so much,
Thank
David.
you. Have a good day,
You
Ken.
bet. You too. It is 7:20, and now with more on last night's debate, we have Micah Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. Good morning, Micah. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Ken. Thank you very much for having me. What a night.
It was a great night. It was truly must-see TV. I couldn't turn it off, and I kept saying to myself, "I gotta go to bed and just wake up early and watch the highlights," but I couldn't. It was really good. There were a lot of fireworks moments. So tell me about how important Ryder's involvement was in the debate. Why was that so important?
Well, so we view this as an incredible voter education tool. The breadth of information that you got about these candidates, the substance that they put out there. We often hear that candidates don't want to put anything on the record. They want to be very careful about what they say. As David said, there's polling considerations. These candidates put as much on the record as we wanted them to. And so I think any voter in New Jersey who doesn't know about these candidates, you need to check out this debate. You're going to get 2 hours of solid substance. It wasn't attacks on each other. Were there contrasts? Absolutely. But it was a lot of good voter information. And at a time where we have newspapers in New Jersey, their last editions, this was really important. We need to find ways for people to get information. And so we were so proud to be associated with this, with On New Jersey, with the Globe, with Rider University. We are sort of ushering in a new age of how voters acquire information and how they make the decisions about how they're going to vote and how they're going to be informed. And so Ryder was just incredibly proud to host this. A room full of people in New Jersey who follow this stuff, some of the state's top officials, and of course, just one of the best gubernatorial fields that we have seen on the Democratic side and soon on the Republican side, tomorrow on the Republican side.
Yeah, we get to do it all over again. This was like the dry run for the other one, but you did
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you've been covering politics for quite a while. Did you think that any particular candidate stood out more than the rest?
So I can answer that two ways. The first is that there was about half the field that eats, breathes, and sleeps state policy. The two mayors, Baraka and Fulop, and the former Senate President, Steve Sweeney. And inherently, any state policy question that we were going to ask them about, they were going to have a depth of information at their fingertips. They were going to be proficient in it in a way that people aren't steeped in it every minute. They just couldn't be quite as conversant. It didn't mean that the other three candidates didn't do well. They did very well. But I just think that there was an inherent advantage there. And then among that group, I certainly think that in many ways, Baraka did distinguish himself because he was the truth teller, because he was the guy who let it all out there. I thought it was a very interesting dynamic between him and Sweeney, kidding around with each other and joking around with each other. So I thought that half of the field really showed us a lot.
Do you think, though, a Baraka would be vulnerable if you get an attack dog on the Republican side who comes after him on all the challenges that you still have in Newark?
Sure, absolutely, 100%. Being the mayor of Newark is absolutely a double-edged sword. I take the current polling with a grain of salt, but we are seeing some strength for Baraka, that people know who the mayor of Newark is. It is a high-profile position in a state where it's hard to break through. People know him. We talk about how much he's out there or he's been out there, but there's something about him. His name sticks out in people's minds. He's been around for a while. So you have the good, but you also have the challenges and the bad. And so I think that he's going to be a complex candidate if he should win the nomination, which, he's still got a tall order. This is still a field of luminaries.
Yeah. And do you think anybody hurt themselves last night?
I really don't know. There was nobody who flubbed a question. There was nobody who stumbled or misspoke. There was, I think, nobody who didn't get their points out there. There were people who spoke more. There were people who spoke less. But I think everybody absolutely got out the points that they wanted to make. And I don't think that there's any video that you're going to see popping up in a negative ad or anything like that.
All right. Well, Micah Rasmussen, tomorrow night we have to do it all over again with the Republicans. Who do you think is somebody who might be having a spotlight shown on them?
That's a great question. So, listen, this is something that Spadia is certainly used to. He gets out there like you and talks about this stuff for hours a day. And so you would expect that he is going to, again, be used to this, be comfortable in this setting, comfortable in his skin. He's not going to be nervous. So I think you have to sort of raise your expectations there. Chittarelli has been doing this before. He's been debating before. He has his third run. This is certainly nothing that he is new at. We will see about Bramnick. He's a lawyer. He argues on his feet every day. He's been in the legislature a long time, but he has not run statewide before. So we'll see what happens. And then I think Durr is going to probably struggle. He's not competed on the statewide stage before. He will sort of be his homey, folksy, plain-spoken MAGA voice. We'll see how that plays with this crowd.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting that you mentioned that. And you mentioned me and Spadia in the same breath.
I'm so sorry, just in the sense that you're conversant and talk about this stuff every day. I otherwise would not put you in the same field.
That's okay. But one thing I did want to point out is there is something to be said for doing political speech, especially hours every day. There's a comfort level in communication. Perfect example would be all of the individuals chosen under the Trump administration, say from Fox News. These are people who all day long, all they did was talk politics. And when you get the communicability side under your belt, and you don't have to worry about how you appear and how you speak, you can calmly present yourself in public and then answer the questions. Whereas a lot of other people are so worried about how they appear and how they speak that they forget about what they have to say. So I think there is a lot to be said for that. And it's not just because he's a fellow broadcaster, but it does give you a leg up when you do this every single day of your life.
And I think it's something that Trump puts a premium on. He really values because he watches this stuff. We know he's a consumer of information on TV. And he really values if you're out there in the arena, if you are mixing it up, if he can see that you can stand on your own 2 feet, that is something he is known to really respect and value. And he defines that as leadership. And, other people would certainly define leadership in different ways, but that's something that he respects. And that's why you see such a presence in his picks that way.
Micah Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. I'm sure we'll be talking to you a lot in the next few days. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good to have you on.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet. Right now it is 7:28. We have a chilly 25 degrees, and we will check in with Mike Favetta in the Garden State forecast in just a minute. Do we have our other caller ready to go? All right, I think we do. Hey, at 7:28, the pies were flying at the Meadowlands this weekend. Jersey pizza joints hosted the fifth annual Pizza Bowl at Reds in Carlstadt in the shadow of MetLife Stadium. Over $20,000 was raised for Tunnel to Towers, helping the families of military members and first responders who lose their lives in the line of duty. Hundreds and hundreds of pizzerias from throughout New Jersey battled it out over the last 6 months, fighting through each elimination round to make it to the actual bake-off this past Saturday. And amazingly, for the first time in the contest's history, one New Jersey pizzeria won the top two prizes out of the hundreds in the competition. They won Best Meatball, which is a tough one to win, not that the meatball is tough, and Best Pizza overall. That pizzeria is Pasitos in South Toms River, and it's only been around for 8 months. We have Anthony Pasita, who's going to join us live here. Good morning. Do we have Anthony? We don't. All that set up, but we don't have Anthony. All right. So I promise we will check back and have that. I was there. The reason why I'm so hoarse and laryngitic, I was there Saturday. I was one of dozens of judges, and it was good to be on there. We'll have Anthony. We got to have. We'll do this setup again and have Anthony on. It's a relatively new place in South Toms River. And unbelievable how many people showed up and how many people love this guy's pizza. All right, tell you what, let's reset. 7:29, again, 25 degrees when we come back on New Jersey mornings. We'll have meteorologist Mike Favetta with the chilly morning forecast. We're coming right back. Very good morning. It's 7:32. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta now. He has a check of the Garden State forecast. Mike, Staten Island Chuck did not see his shadow yesterday. Means we'll have an early spring. But Puxatawny Phil did see his shadow, indicating 6 more weeks of winter. I understand they're cousins and they really don't like each other. So what happens when you get a split decision? Do you go with Chuck because he's closer?
You've got, I mean, you've got all the cousins in parts of New Jersey, you know, the
Right.
smaller towns that have their rodent meteorologists. But still, it's fun folklore. You know, we look ahead at the forecast and see so much cold, a little bit of snow. Saw some snow last night. Where was that? The groundhog looking outside and seeing the snow last night with a little bit of light round that came in just after dark and gave us a good inch across most of northern New Jersey. That's what you see here, that light shade of blue with anywhere from 1.1 inches up toward Morris County, even an inch over in eastern Passaic County, and down in Bergen County, 1.2 inches for you. So a good, healthy round of snow, adding to the snowfall total for the season. And after the clear start this morning, it quickly goes back to cloud. So even though temperatures are milder today, and we likely won't see any of the snow stick around, we'll get just enough sun this morning into the afternoon, I think, to allow for that melting and see blacktop again later on today. As far as the temperature, we warm pretty well into the low 50s. It's going to be a milder finish to the day. 51 in Toms River, 50 in Point Pleasant, and back over in Princeton, up toward Flemington and in Trenton, 52 degrees. A mix of clouds and sun in through the middle of the afternoon. Much warmer, a good 10 degrees warmer than our average of 41 degrees. Far from the record of -2. We're done with all of that serious cold, but there are some more flakes in the forecast coming up in the next few days. And I think after a little bit of a gusty breeze sets up with that milder wind throughout today, it starts to switch direction, the wind. And by Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning into the afternoon, you'll notice the northwesterly wind, notice the flow of the arrows here, bringing in a colder feel. That's another cold front, providing a very chilly start to the day on Wednesday. And that's also when we could see another round of flurries begin in central New Jersey. It's our next weather system that sets up for Thursday, but I think central New Jersey could see the first flakes as soon as Wednesday morning. Notice with the wind chill really starting to drop by this time tomorrow, 23 degrees feels like temperature over in Sussex, 23 in Morristown. Feeling chilly throughout the afternoon and night. So tomorrow evening, it feels like 16 in Hackensack, 19 in Newark, and 27 on LBI. That cold weather, once again, reinforcing shot of chilly weather down in the single digits later tomorrow evening as it feels like temperature 10 in Flemington and 19 in Mount Holly. So plenty of cold weather setting the stage for another round of snow and ice midweek. I think after the clouds depart today, we're back to clear, sunny skies tomorrow. And then look what happens on Wednesday. Early in the morning, you see this stripe of blue work across central and southern New Jersey going into the afternoon. This is the leading edge of our next round of wintry weather, which begins as snow and then transitions over to ice by Thursday. You see all of the shades of pink and blue and green. It's going to be a mess come Thursday morning, likely giving us a little round of snow and then ice on top of that, with snow mixing back in throughout Thursday morning. Warm air moves in through southern New Jersey, meaning rain, and then it all clears out by Friday. But there's yet again another round of wintry weather for the weekend. So I think by Saturday, we could be dealing with more snow and ice and rain as temperatures are cold enough to support that. Looking like old snow here on the board, maybe lingering into some rainy weather by Sunday. So a very active pattern, Ken, as we start off February kind of on our heels. You know, the groundhog says one thing, but the science says something else.
I know you meteorologists are just jealous of the groundhogs because they get all the fame and glory, and you guys have to do all the real work.
At least I don't have a top hat like that. I mean, come on.
Well, that's true.
You know,
And you don't have to
2025.
have some goofy looking guy yank you out of the ground. I mean, whatever. All right, meteorologist Mike Favetta will be checking back with you in a little bit. Thank you so much, sir. It is 7:36 now. Some serious news. A family in Newark mourning the loss of a 9-year-old child brutally murdered in a barrage of bullets outside his grandparents' home on Friday. Yassine Morrison's father was dropping off the child and his sister so the two could stay with their grandparents when the bullets started flying. Yassine was struck and killed. His father was actually grazed. He is expected to be okay. So far, no arrests. Time is 7:37. The 6 passengers traveling on that medical jet that crashed Friday evening in Philadelphia have been identified. All 6 died on impact. They are Captain Alan Alejandro Montoya Perales, co-pilot Josue de Jesus Juarez Juarez, Dr. Raul Mesa Arredondo, paramedic Rodrigo Lopez Badia, Valentina Guzman Murillo, and Lisbeth Murillo Osuna. The 6 were identified by Jet Rescue Air Ambulance, which is the company that was flying young Valentina on board the Learjet 55 from Shriners Children's Hospital in Northeast Philadelphia back to where she is from in Mexico. All 6 victims on the plane were Mexican citizens. There was a seventh person who was killed on the ground. That person has not yet been identified. Several others on the ground were also hurt. They're all being treated in area hospitals. It's not yet known what caused the jet to crash. The plane, by the way, was nearly 50 years old, but it's not known if that may have played a part. First responders have not yet found the so-called black boxes, which are actually orange in color. They could help determine the cause of the crash. Time now is 7:38. And the winner of Best Country Album of the Year, country album, Beyonce. The award caught many in the audience by surprise at the 67th Grammy Award show held last night in Los Angeles, but it was Kendrick Lamar who dominated with 5 wins overall. It had been feared the recent spate of wildfires was going to force the show to be moved or canceled. The Recording Academy appropriately had the show open with a rendition of Angelino Randy Newman's song, I Love L.A., performed by Dawes and backed up by John Legend, Sheryl Crow, Brad Paisley, Brittany Howard, and St. Vincent. Music icon Taylor Swift was nominated in 6 categories and was also a presenter. She was vying for her 5th Album of the Year win with the Tortured Poets Department, which topped the Billboard 200 for 17 non-consecutive weeks. Meanwhile, anti-ICE protests brought out hundreds of LA police. The protest forced the closure of at least one freeway. Police called the protest an unlawful assembly after a number of police were injured after people gathered and started to throw objects at the officers there. 7:39 now, and Pete Hegseth heads to the southern border today. It's his first trip as defense secretary. He will highlight military support for U.S. Customs and Border Protection at Fort Bliss, Texas. The Trump administration is about to start deportation flights to the naval station at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and it is already using military aircraft to conduct deportation flights to Latin America. 7:40 now. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings. It was first called a conspiracy theory, then more and more information came out, suggesting there may be more there than just a conspiracy. A number of individuals present at the January 6, 2021 riots suggested there were a number of FBI agents among the crowds of people, and that some of those agents may have been stirring up the people, plants, if you will, put there intentionally to instigate the crowd. It's a charge that the FBI initially denied outright. Then they said a few agents may have been there on their own. Then they changed that story to say a larger number of agents may have been there after all, but the FBI stopped short of saying why those agents were there. The question is, did the FBI plant agents among the January 6th crowds to cause a riot so President Trump could later be blamed? Meanwhile, President Trump had tweeted from the day before the gathering that he wanted nothing but peace. And on the 6th itself, he had said to everyone that they should peacefully march to the Capitol. Now, the Trump Justice Department wants to get to the bottom of this. Was this a deliberate secret plot by the FBI? Over 1,000 FBI agents from all over the country have now been ordered to fill out affidavits regarding their involvement, if any, that day. And they must return those surveys by tomorrow afternoon. No word on what could happen to any agents who don't honestly and fully cooperate. There are thousands of hours of videotape that have been collected that day, presumably with lots of faces very clearly visible. You'll recall that because of that day, there was a whole January 6th committee. People were thrown in dungeons, basically held behind bars for years before they were actually charged with anything. And when you hear the word insurrection used by mainstream media, remember, nobody has ever been charged with the crime of insurrection. So it is not appropriate to use the term insurrection in the January 6th case. You could say there were riots, you could say there was an uprising, but you cannot say there was an insurrection, which by definition means government was stopped. Somebody took over the government. That's an insurrection. That never occurred. There was a vote that took place. President Biden was installed and government proceeded as usual. So by definition, there was never an insurrection. We're coming up on 7:43. Our temperature is 25 degrees. We had a little snow last night. When we come back, meteorologist Mike Favetta will have the latest Garden State forecast. Plus, we will have more, the latest news for you. You are watching On New Jersey Mornings. We're coming back in 2 minutes. it is 7:45. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the Garden State forecast. Mike, we had a little snow last night, and I should mention it may be making for a little slippery travel in some spots where that's stuck to the ground this morning, right?
Yeah, and there were a lot of accumulations. Saw some of the snow salters on the street this morning doing their job. It was enough to stick not only on the car tops and on the grassy surfaces, but it was cold enough yesterday, Ken, with that cloudy weather in the afternoon. Temperatures stayed below the freezing mark, and so that allowed for a quick accumulation last evening as that snow began falling, mixing at times with some sleet pellets and some ice pellets into the evening hours. Today, we start off clear, but quickly turn cloudy into this afternoon as warmer weather takes over. We'll be in the low 50s across much of the state, allowing for a nice thaw into the end of the day. Then some more messy weather comes in by the middle of the week. Wednesday morning, likely see some flakes and flurries in central New Jersey, transitioning to some snow and ice by Wednesday night into Thursday, and that will likely mean a very rough go of things again on Thursday morning with active snow and rain falling throughout the morning commute on Thursday. Once again on Saturday, we could have another round of messy, wintry weather with some snow mixing with some ice and rain again, and then that cold weather continues even into next week with higher chances of snow for the second week of February. So pretty active pattern we get into, as today in southern New Jersey you enjoy a beautiful feel as temperatures feel like spring, climbing into the mid-50s under mostly sunny skies. It'll look nice from Cape May to Avalon, 50 degrees for you. Back over towards Salem, 54, Glassboro and Camden, mid-50s this afternoon. So a pretty decent go of things. Now through the rest of this week we have small rain chances because most of that will fall as frozen precip, and that doesn't really help our drought monitor because even though what fell last night in northern New Jersey, where sure, some moisture is needed, but most of it is needed in southern New Jersey, while it looks like a lot on the ground, when it melts down, its liquid content, really not impressive. So we continue with our very dry conditions. Look at the percent of normal rain, 11% of normal rainfall up in Sussex County over the last 30 days, 16% normal in Hackensack, and 15 in Newark. And notice here in northern New Jersey, where a lot of the reservoirs are, the water storage centers for most of the state are pretty dry. And that's a problem considering we started the season very dry and it continues to remain dry with anywhere of a 1 to 2 inch rainfall deficit. This is just in the last 30 days. Going back 90 days, it's even worse. So that drought not getting any better anytime soon, even though we have these small chances of precip over the next several days. So the next cold front that comes in later on tonight into tomorrow makes for a much colder feel throughout your Tuesday. It'll bring back the sunshine. But then here's our next round of wintry weather starting Wednesday morning, going into the afternoon. Edges in with the cold air as some snow at first across central and southern New Jersey. And watch what happens as the whole system moves in across the state, transitions from the snow to rain, where that warm front is. So on the north side of the warm front, it's cold enough to support snow and ice. Once that warm front passes, it changes over to freezing rain and then a plain rain, and that will take us into Thursday afternoon. So yeah, it gets pretty messy right around that morning commute on Thursday before another reinforcing shot of cold weather comes in on Friday. Cools us down just in time for the weekend. And that sets the stage in the long-range futurecast for another round of snow and ice. You know the drill, beginning of snow, changing to freezing rain, sleet, and then a plain rain by Saturday afternoon. However, this time, notice how Saturday afternoon into the evening time frame, most of the state covered in pink, especially north of, say, the Atlantic City Expressway, likely have a prolonged period of sleet and freezing rain here that takes us into later Sunday morning. So a much different story, and one to watch certainly as it's several days away going into the next few days. Precip chances, they're much higher come Thursday. Look at that, 90%. You see it shoot up there. And then by Saturday and Sunday, a little bit more of a chance of messy weather into the end of the week. The temperature outlook, this is going beyond next week into the next 2 weeks. It's actually cooler than average. So some chilly weather setting up as another round of a piece of the polar vortex breaks loose and enters the upper Midwest. That will likely send some cold shots of air our way. And then going into the second week of February, we also have higher than average chances of rainfall or precipitation, which could fall as snow. So an active pattern shaping up through the next several days, and on the 7-day forecast, you can clearly see it throughout this week. Notice, even though it's nice and sunny and dry tomorrow, it's much colder into the afternoon as that 45-degree high pretty much happens in the morning. We fall throughout the afternoon down into the 20s for Wednesday morning, warming up into the upper 30s, and then there's our rain and snow, starting as snow and ice, changing to rain for Thursday before clearing out on Friday. A more significant round of snow likely on Saturday, ending as rain on Sunday. So every day can keeping us on our toes, specifically with the northern half of the state, really the weather varying drastically from the southern half of New Jersey, just depending on where that snow rain line sets up. We'll look more at the shore points 7-day forecast coming up next.
And so along the line, you would call it snain,
Or snert. Or
nert.
snow. There's many creative licenses available to
You
use.
you remember who used to use snert back in the day? We both worked with him.
Uh-huh.
Meteorologist Bill Evans back at Channel 7. That was his line. He's a snert. Snert. Hey Mike, we both worked with Bill at one point. So he's now semi-retired, but still on the air. Anyway, thank you very much, meteorologist Mike Favetta. We appreciate you. And we just want to let people know too that we do have, speaking of that weather, we do have a little traffic incident. New Jersey Turnpike Authority telling us there's a crash on the Garden State Parkway southbound north of the Colonia Service area, Woodbridge Township. The left lane and shoulder of 5 lanes are closed. So that's going to cause some issues there. And of course, we'll keep you updated all morning long. We'll go back to Mike in just a little while as well. It is 7:49. Oh, excuse me, 7:52 right now. In the news, for decades, South Africa treated its black citizens extremely poorly, leading, of course, to a worldwide outcry that properly demanded equality among all of their citizens. You'll recall Nelson Mandela, previously imprisoned by the government of South Africa, was released and rose to lead the nation. Fast forward a few decades, though, and exactly the opposite is now occurring in that country. Black South Africans are now in control, and they are seizing the land and bank accounts of white South Africans. Now, the Trump administration is intervening. The president announced on Truth Social that he is going to freeze all aid to South Africa until they stop confiscating land and money. No response yet from that nation. A successful trip for Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who made good on his promise to visit the Panama Canal. Panama's president has agreed not to renew that country's agreements with China, allowing the communist nation access to the canal zone. The Panama Canal was built by the United States, and the nation of Panama was created by our government out of what was Colombia back in 1903. Some liberal fact checkers have recently stated the U.S. never actually owned the canal, but canal historians beg to differ. Historians at the University of Florida say President Theodore Roosevelt actually signed what was called the Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty on November 18th of 1903, which granted the U.S. the rights and powers to construct and operate the canal and to establish the canal zone. The Carter administration handed over the canal to Panama, but made it clear the canal was to remain free of influences from hostile governments. China had become involved in running the zones on either side of the canal, thus threatening international commerce. 754, speaking of international commerce, after threats by Canada to retaliate against the U.S. with tariffs, guess what's happening to the Canadian dollar? It has now sunk to a 25-year low. They thought they'd talk tough. Didn't work. The Canadian dollar now worth about half of our dollar, specifically the exchange this morning. It's $1.47 Canadian for every $1 US. Careful when you talk tough against the big brother to the south. So if you're thinking about traveling someplace for a bargain, Canada, nice country to visit. You can go there, and for every dollar, you will get $1.47 Canadian. So that means your dollar will go very, very far if you want to travel to the north. Although President Trump will probably say, don't spend your money up there. If we're imposing tariffs, we want to try to make our point with the Canadian government. It is 7:54 right now. We're going to have our this morning's top headlines and meteorologist Mike Favetta with the full Garden State forecast and 2 minutes of news when we come back. Don't go away. 7:57. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Earlier in the hour, we talked about the 5th annual Pizza Bowl, which happened in New Jersey. And it's a serious thing in the state of New Jersey. I mean, come on. New Jerseyans know their pizza. They love their pizza. And if you ask most people in the tri-state who try it, New Jersey pizza reigns supreme. So I was at Pizza Bowl 5. I was a celebrity judge over the weekend on Saturday. There were hundreds and hundreds of pizzerias from the northern part of the state to the south, all joining at the Meadowlands. Take a listen to one moment as people were talking about how this Pizza Bowl is getting bigger and better.
For you, Pizza Bowl 5, every year we get bigger and bigger. And now we're going after New York. It's pretty interesting. We got New York judges here today. Brooklyn, the capital of pizza. Bronx as well. I mean, serious. We're going to come after New York. We're going to see what happens.
Let me just tell you something. There were people from Brooklyn in the house, and I don't know if he should have made threats to Brooklyn like that. Some of the folks I saw there probably had a little conversation with him. Hey, listen, come here a minute. We like Jersey, but there were members, by the way, of the cast of The Sopranos there as well. It was unbelievable. Okay, now check this out. One pizzeria located in Tom's River. One pizzeria came out on top in the 2 key categories, best pizza and best meatballs in the state. And I know everyone says, nobody makes meatballs like my mother. These people did. Take a listen to the moment when they won.
World best meatballs in New Jersey, Pizza Bowl 5. We had 3 contenders. If you don't make it, you scratch, just like the games. 3rd place, letter B, Ioreos, letter B. 2nd place, letter A. Winner of Pizza Bowl 4, Vinny Mutz. 2nd place. C, winner, Mess Meatballs, Pasado, Tom's River, New Jersey. Serious. Pasado, Mess Meatballs, Jersey.
Yeah, they are. That's Anthony Pasito
Congratulations.
and his crown.
Pizza Bowl 5, meatball winners.
And his wife. All right, so that's the moment when he was crowned, and I know it's like you say, "Come on, Ken, this is news." Yeah, it actually is. I'm tired of doing the bad stuff. Because how many over the years, 30 years, I'm in the news business. People come up to me, "Can you do something but all this doom and gloom news?" There you have it. Pizza, something most everybody likes to one extent or another, and the best meatballs. And I'm telling you, if you're in the Toms River area, they're in South Toms River. It's called Pasitos. They spell it Pacidoughs apostrophe S, Pasitos. They're only 8 months old, and they just schooled the rest of us on what is good pizza and meatballs. They're fantastic. We're going to have them on about 25 minutes from now, 8 o'clock, and we are coming right back. Hey, good morning. Welcome to our 8 a.m. hour of On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Let's go straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta. First check of the Garden State forecast after a bit of snow last night in some parts. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. Little more than an inch across most of northern New Jersey fell in a short time frame, mixing with some sleet and ice pellets. So kind of a crunchy snow waking up this morning, but at least it's easy to dust off the car tops and will clear quickly as temperatures already warming at the freezing mark in Newark and going higher into the 40s later on this afternoon. 21 right now is the air temperature in Flemington, where you had a round of snow last night as well, and up to an inch up in Sussex County, south of, say, I-95, or excuse me, I-195, less than a trace. So just a little bit of a coating there with some flurries that fell overnight. Throughout the morning, winds are low, so gusts aren't that terrible, meaning wind chills are in check. It's just a chilly morning all around, but we warm quickly, and it's warmer than this time yesterday. Despite the round of fresh snow, temperatures this time yesterday were about 15 degrees cooler in many parts of the state. So we had a nice round of sun early this morning. Now the clouds taking over, and with that, milder weather thanks to a warm front that pushes in, sending our highs under the cloudy skies to 47 in Morristown, 45 in Newark, 47 in Wayne, and even up in Sussex, 48 degrees. So that snow likely gone by day's end, thanks to that brighter sky and nice milder weather. There is another round of cold weather that comes in tomorrow morning, sending our temperatures down back into the 20s by Wednesday, and then all the cold air Wednesday setting the stage for a round of snow and freezing rain, sleet, and then rain by Thursday. That'll make for some messy spots on Thursday morning for the morning rush. We'll tell you more about that with the Futurecast, Ken, coming up with your full forecast in just a bit.
Fine, Mike. You want to throw my name like that? I'll just throw groundhog at you from the weekend. How about that, pal? All right, Mike. We'll check back with you in a little bit. Thank you very much, sir. It is still a chilly 27 degrees at 8:06. The time now is to talk about the 6 Democratic candidates who want to be New Jersey's next governor. They met on stage last night to battle it out in the hopes that one would rise above the rest in the primary race. Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, U.S. Representatives Josh Gottheimer and Mikey Sherrill, New Jersey Education Association President and former Montclair Mayor Sean Spiller, and former Senate President Steve Sweeney, all faced off at Rider University in the central New Jersey community of Lawrenceville. It was broadcast live here on New Jersey. It was sponsored by the New Jersey Globe. New Jersey Globe reporter Joey Fox was there. Welcome, Joey. Good morning to you. Good to have you on this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, you asked some really tough questions last night. Before we let you talk about it, let's go right to the soundbite about trans rights.
So I brought up immigrants in New Jersey in my prior question. Another group that the new Trump administration has clearly shown interest in targeting is transgender Americans. If Republicans in Washington were to get all of the bills passed, it would mean that transgender Americans would be limited in their ability to change their gender on federal documents, to join sports teams that match with their gender identity, to do all sorts of other things. I want to ask about that last policy in particular. In New Jersey K through 12 schools, do you think that transgender kids should be allowed to play on sports teams that match their gender identity rather than their sex at birth?
Yes, and I'll say this, I think often we have this conversation and we want to disconnect the person from a policy or the thing we're saying. At the end of the day, I'm in our schools all the time. I'm a teacher, right? And I understand that our most important charge is making sure every student feels safe, supported, encouraged, and that they can go on and be successful people, right? And serving in our economy, in our nation. And look, as a former hockey player too, I also know that, guess what? The vast majority of the kids who are playing sports or doing other things, you're not going Division I, you're not going pro, but what you are doing is you're learning. You're learning about how to support one another. You're learning about the values that can maybe help you succeed as a person as you grow older. You're benefiting in so many ways that at so many early ages to say to folks, listen, we're going to deprive you of that opportunity and ability. We are not even going to recognize you or see you. We're already going to take a group that is the most at risk and say we're going to even make things worse for you and harder and more challenging. Again, I go back to our values. I don't think that's who we are. I don't think that's who we are, even as we have conversations more broadly.
All right, Joey. So that was a tough one. Obviously, a tough question there. But do you think, though, that the answer, while it may satisfy the base, does it satisfy New Jersey voters who almost by 80% are against say, for instance, trans males or trans females, excuse me, for participating in female sports in the state?
Um, I mean, I'm not sure, and I think that that's a question that the Democratic candidates for governor are not really thinking about in the same way right now, because I think that they all recognize that right now the battle is for the Democratic nomination. None of them are going to be able to win the governor's office if they don't first win the nomination for the governor's office. And I think that's true on the Republican side too. You've got 4 candidates that we're going to be doing a debate on Tuesday night with the Republicans, and all 4 of them are going to have a great amount of interest in running to the right for now, because they've got to get through this first 5-month sprint and actually win the primary before they have any chance of becoming governor. So I mean, I think that you saw some consensus last night on the trans issue. I mean, you didn't show the entire clip, but it got a little bit testy towards the end of the exchange, not because they specifically disagreed on policy, but because Mayor Baraka from Newark, who is, you know, the most aggressive candidate throughout the night, he was saying that he strongly supports trans rights, and he was heavily implying that a lot of his opponents were sort of only paying lip service to it, and would say on a Democratic debate stage that they'd do so, but in their votes and in their campaigning, they wouldn't hold up to that same commitment. So, I mean, I think this is an issue that clearly divides Americans, and people have different reactions to it. And I mean, you know, the fact that I ask about K through 12 transgender kids in sports specifically, you know, that's more of a wedge issue than some others. There's some other trans related issues where Americans come down very differently. But this is clearly an issue where, at least among these 6 Democrats, there is some level of consensus, and all of them both recognize, I think they personally believe that this is an issue that's important, and that protecting transgender people is generally important. And I also think that they strategically realize that this is not something where they want to be sort of the odd one out in a Democratic primary, looking like they're more conservative than their opponents.
And I'm glad you clarified that, because yes, whenever a party member runs in a primary, they want to first get their base to support them. And then once they run in the general election, they always kind of come more toward the center once they've secured their party's nomination. So definitely the case. And the issue of immigration, of course, very hot, and that came up as well last night. Let's take a listen to what the candidates had to say.
So as evidenced by an ICE raid in Newark last month, Donald Trump's administration is clearly going to follow through, or at least try to follow through, on its promise of widespread deportations of undocumented immigrants. So this is going to be a loaded question, but we're going to have time to talk it through. Raise your hand if you believe that one of the goals of the next governor should be protecting immigrants in New Jersey, even those who are here illegally.
We should protect everyone.
We should protect people in New Jersey, especially with the Constitution.
I'll go to Mayor Baraka to expand on that, given that it's your hometown.
Well, it's interesting that we keep saying that people are here illegally when we keep moving the goalposts. If we take away all of the reasons or ways that pathways that people become documented citizens of the United States and then say they're illegal, is a problem, right? We cannot risk the 4th Amendment, the 14th Amendment to push this political agenda that Donald Trump has, really based in white supremacy and racism. That's really what it's based on, and nothing other than that. The reality is we have to protect our neighbors. We have to protect the folks in our community. Immigrants in New Jersey represent almost a quarter of the labor force here in this state. They bring billions of dollars to state and local taxes. They increase the revenue and the economy where we live. Immigrants in our community in Newark are store owners, right? They're business owners. They're community people. They're advocates. They're part of nonprofit organizations. Defending them and standing up for them is defending and standing up for the rest of New Jersey and American families. And I'm going to do that no matter what it takes.
Do you think that this buys them a place, though, on the left? There was a recent poll, Joey, that showed 67% of African Americans currently support President Trump's issues on immigration and deportation. 67%. That includes Democrats among African Americans. Newark, overwhelmingly African American. And the conflation of immigrant with illegal immigrant that's one of the things that so many, I used to live in Miami. Legal residents of Miami who are immigrants get infuriated when the term immigrant conflates legal and illegal, because so many people struggled and did it the legal way, and then they feel others cut the line. And when they got here after cutting the line, they got $20,000 gift cards, 2 years of free residence, 3 squares for their kids in schools, hotels that were set aside for them, while there were homeless vets and legal migrants who came here who got none of it. And this is why many would say Trump won by a majority of the vote. Can you understand why this is going to be a very contentious issue when this individual, whoever the one of the six is, gets into a competitive field with the Republican candidate?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this was one of the big issues of the 2024 race. I think it's going to be one of the big issues of the 2025 race, although obviously, the federal government has a lot more authority over this than the governor of New Jersey. That's kind of why I asked my question less about what they believe about immigration policy and more about what they would specifically try to do or what their goals would be as governor as it responds to what President Trump is doing. And there's two candidates on the stage. Their responses came later in the exchange, who are clearly taking a different tack on this, where Steve Sweeney, the former state Senate president, said unprompted a few days ago that he would functionally repeal New Jersey's sanctuary state status, which would be sort of, I mean, there's never been an entirely clear single definition of what a sanctuary state or what a sanctuary city means or what it would mean to repeal that. But basically the general idea of he would support more cooperation between New Jersey and the federal government on, apprehending and potentially deporting undocumented immigrants. And then Josh Gottheimer, he's a pretty moderate Democratic congressman, and he was the only Democrat in New Jersey's congressional delegation to vote for the Lake and Riley Act, which is like the biggest piece of legislation that Congress has passed so far this year, that would basically make it easier for ICE to detain undocumented immigrants who are charged with crimes, not necessarily convicted, but charged. So that came out last night. I mean, and that was something that, Mayor Baraka, Mayor Fulop, the more progressive candidates on the stage were hammering on. And that was something that Congressman Gottheimer and Senator Sweeney, they were saying, we support protecting immigrants. This is absolutely not about targeting people, but at the same time, there are laws. You shouldn't be a murderer and still be in the country, yada, yada. And I mean, the one other thing I'll say is just given, since you're talking about sort of the support levels for a lot of these policies, I think that absolutely could make it into a powerful wedge issue for whichever Republican ends up getting elected, getting the nomination for governor. I also do think, though, that we have seen many, many times that there will be a particular issue that, elects someone at first, and they're running on a specific issue related to immigration or taxes or what have you. And then, the American voting public is just a fickle body. And, you start to see the consequences of what that means. Like, oh, like I thought they weren't coming for my neighbors, and then ICE comes for your neighbors. It's like, oh, there's something that's happening right here. So I think that there's a good chance as well that some of these policies, that elected Trump in the first place, midterm dynamics tend to witness a backlash against those policies. I can't predict for sure whether that's going to happen with this, but I do think that the political moment we're in right now will not necessarily be the political moment that we're in November when these people are coming on the ballot for the general election in New Jersey.
I think you're 100% right. And I think a lot of people, I have friends hard right who say that, let's see what happens when the mainstream media starts showing video of families taken away and if they still support deportation. It's one thing when it's words on paper or a Q&A on a microphone and you're caught out in the street at the last second. It's another thing when you see people getting rounded up and they're real people and you go,
right.
Oh.
I mean, the election of a president turns policies from the abstract into the concrete if they're actually able to accomplish those policies. And people very frequently decide, oh, wait, actually, I'm dubious of this for X, Y, or Z. So yeah, we'll just have to see as the Trump administration goes on how voters react to that. And that because of New Jersey's off-cycle governor's race, that sort of we're one of the states where any effect of that would be felt first. People are going to be looking at us and at Virginia this November as kind of the first barometer of how people are really reacting to what the Trump administration is doing.
Yeah, and it's funny because you pointed specifically to Steve Fulop and Ross Baraka, and you can understand why they would be more against, if you will, doing anything stronger to support ICE because they are dealing with their constituents one-on-one on a much more local basis, as opposed to the Congress members who are dealing with the federal government. So it sort of makes sense that a Ross Baraka or a Steve Fulop would have said they would rather support the undocumented, the illegal migrants, if you will. And remember what I'm old enough to remember why the idea of sanctuary cities was born. This is back in the 70s. And the idea was when, back in those days, we used to say immigration, immigration. If there was a raid of a business and anyone who was not here legally would run because they were worried that immigration would come and take them away. And what that was about was if there were police looking for a rapist, a murderer, and they would go into a neighborhood, they needed to talk to these people. And the people would be afraid that they would get rounded up. So to allay their fears, what local mayors said, look, we'll call it a sanctuary city. If we're coming to talk to you, we're not going to round you up and arrest you and have you thrown out of the country. We just need to know about the murderer in your neighborhood. That's where that was born. And I think for too many, they'll look at that and say, okay, it unfortunately got to the point where you have rapists, murderers, pedophiles, et cetera, who are now being protected. Or if they're in jail and convicted locally, they're then let out of jail before ICE could get them. And I think that's where the line gets crossed between the federal government and the local government. They say enough. And for those who say, all the mayors who say, Joey, that, hey, we're not obliged to do federal law. That's not what we're paid for. Well, here's the argument. If a bank is robbed in your community, that's federal law. The FBI gets involved, but yet you hold the bank robber, right? If there is a kidnapper, you arrest the kidnapper, but that's FBI, that's federal law. But so they're picking and choosing which federal laws they're going to enforce. And remember, all local officials take an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution and all the laws they're under. So there can be, they don't be surprised if Congress doesn't enact something that says we're going to throw the mayors in jail if they don't hold under an ICE retainer, which New York typically does. They just ignore ICE retainers. Judges issue an ICE retainer and they just say, no, we're just going to ignore it. Well, then why don't, think back to the 1960s. You're not old enough to, I am. In the 1960s, there were federal retainers that said that if the Alabama governor allows for discrimination, that he should go to jail. And the Alabama governor said, nope, we're not going to allow racial equality in our state. Go screw yourself. That's literally what was happening. So there's got to come a point where the locals do have to acknowledge that there is federal law and that as a state in the United States, they have to obey. And don't be surprised if Congress doesn't pass a law in the next 2 years before the midterms that reinforces that. Joey, I thank you for letting me rant there for 2 minutes. You are an amazing breath of fresh air, and I thank you so much for being on this morning after having such a late night. What do you look forward to tomorrow night in the Republican version of this?
I think that it's going to be sort of the inverse of some of what we've been talking about here, where I was mentioning this before. They're going to just as the candidates tonight had a vested interest in appearing like the most progressive candidate, the candidates, I meant last night, the candidates tomorrow night will have a vested interest in being the most conservative. And you've got 2 people in particular, Bill Spadea and Ed Durr, who have sort of made their careers around being like the one conservative voice in the room who's going to tell truth to power and tell the Republicans in name only to kick rocks. And then you've got 2 of the other 2 candidates, John Bramnick and Jack Ciattarelli, are more of those establishment Republicans. John Bramnick is much more moderate. Jack Ciattarelli is more of a mainstream conservative. But I'm going to be fascinated to see how those dynamics work. I think last night the Democrats largely, they kept it cordial. They occasionally made some glancing blows at each other, but there was never a moment where they were like, how come you voted for that? Like, you suck for this. I think the Republican debate maybe has the potential to get a lot more in that swamp. We'll be thinking through our questions, making sure that we cover all the issues that voters want to hear about and all the issues where specifically we think that the candidates will come to a difference of opinion. It's not just all of them agreeing that puppies are good, but things that they would actively do differently as governor. And this will be just like the Democratic debate. This will be one of their first chances to really go on the record on a lot of this stuff. So I'm looking forward to it.
New Jersey Globe reporter Joey Fox, can't thank you enough for getting up so early after having such a late night. We hope we talk to you again on Wednesday morning after Tuesday night's debate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you. 8:23 right now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the pizza pies were flying at the Meadowlands this weekend. New Jersey's Pizza Bowl 5 in just a minute. It is 28 degrees at 8:26. The pizzas were flying at the Meadowlands this weekend, and one pizzeria came out on top. All right. Well, we were going to give you the moment that pizzeria came out on top, but instead, let's go right to the folks. The pizza joints, the Jersey Pizza Joints, hosted the 5th annual Pizza Bowl at Reds in Carlstadt in the shadow of MetLife Stadium. Over $20,000 got raised for Tunnel to Towers, helping the families of military members and first responders who lost their lives in the line of duty. Hundreds of pizzerias from throughout New Jersey battled it out over the last 6 months, fighting through each elimination round to make it to the actual bake-off this past Saturday. And amazingly, for the first time in the contest's history, just one New Jersey pizzeria won the top 2 coveted prizes out of the hundreds who were there in the competition: Best Meatball and Best Pizza. That pizzeria is Pasitos in South Toms River. It's only been around for 8 months. Joining us now, we have Anthony and Danielle Pasito, and I believe their daughter is, oh, look at that. Their daughter is with us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You bet. Thanks for getting up early, too. You can hear my voice is shot from Saturday. I can imagine you must be exhausted. What does it feel like to have beaten pizzerias who've been around decades in not one, but both categories?
Surreal, I guess, is the only way. The only way to describe it. There was a lot of competition, a lot of pizzerias that we respect and look up to that were competing there or who have competed in the past. So to be there in itself was an honor, let alone to win.
So now your pizza, would you describe it as more of a traditional Neapolitan, like from Italy Neapolitan crust? Because I noticed it felt more like that kind of a crust as opposed to what we would call a New York crust.
No, I'd say it's more of a New York style. But
Amazing. And the sauce, what is there I know you don't want to give away the secrets, but is there something just a yes or no, is there something special you think you do to that sauce to make it taste the way it does? Because I noticed the balance. My family used to own a pizzeria. This is why I'm a geek about it. And see, your baby agrees. So is it like that balance between acid and sweet? How do you achieve that?
Well, we use milled tomatoes, which is, I guess, an old technique, but now it's starting to become the new technique. You know, things go through their cycles. So a lot of we used to use grinded. I know a lot of places do, but we started at Pasitos when we opened. We used milled tomatoes.
And for those who don't understand, milled tomato, there's the food mill where they used to crank, the old ladies in Italy used to crank, right? Used to crank that. What that does, for those that don't realize, is it separates the seeds, which can be bitter, and the skins from the pulp and the juice, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, that just answers the question for me. You had the balance of acidity and sweet. So didn't taste like they took an acidy tomato and added sugar to it to try to artificially bump up the sweet. You have the actual best part of the tomato there. That's amazing. And let's cut to the meatballs. Your meatballs were unbelievable. My mother is mad at me for saying this. They were tender. They were moist. They weren't too garlicky. Too many people compact their meatballs and make them garlicky. Yours were held together enough, but then were moist and fell apart in the mouth. Was it a family recipe for the meatballs?
It was just a recipe that Danielle and I came up with over the years. But this is actually a great opportunity to say how much that we appreciate our team, because we were so focused on preparing for the pizza bowl that we trust our team so much that we trusted them to prep for the meatball bowl. Of course, using our recipe, but we want to thank them so much. And you know, we tried to have them take a picture with the trophy and the crowns, and they were so modest. They said no, that they don't want to.
Daniela and you together, you guys, this is not your first pizzeria, right? Do you still have the original one you opened up?
No.
All right, so you opened this 8 months ago. What was the impetus behind opening this pizzeria?
So we were at our old spot, and I started to do pop-ups. The old location we had bought from somebody else, so it had that person's name, and it never really felt, although, you know, we had a great experience there, never felt like it was our own. So I started doing pop-ups, I guess 2 years ago, like at different breweries and people's backyards. And Danielle came up with this great name, Pasitos, which is a play on our last name, but also incorporates the word dough. And eventually we had this opportunity in South Toms River, and we just took that brand and ran with it.
For those who don't realize what you're talking about, your name is Pasito, Pacitto, but you spell the pizzeria's name Pacidough, which is adorable. That's a great concept. And you notice some of the people at the when you were awarded the big moment. In fact, let's play that moment when you got best pizza right now. You can see they mispronounced your name at first because they weren't sure how it was pronounced. Let's play that.
Time for pizza. South Jersey, that was South Jersey. Pizza Bowl 5, the winners. Okay. Again, North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey competing. The winners, Pizza Bowl 5. Third place, letter B. Zonies, Middletown, New Jersey, third place. Congratulations. Second place, Pizza Bowl 5. The entire state of New Jersey, the capital pizza, as Guy Madsen says, the Napa Valley of pizza. Toronto's, C, Livingston. That means your winner is D, Pasadena, Toms River, New Jersey. The winner of Pizza Bowl 5.
And there you go, getting your crown.
Pizza.
That's your second crown after the meatballs. So that was cute. So Pasitos, not Pasitos, but that sounds like a British pronunciation. Yes, the Pasitos Pizzeria, the pizza joint. So it's Pasitos Pizza Joint, which I love the name and the fact that this is New Jersey pizza joints who put this together. I being a meatball-aholic that I am, I have to ask: do you put your meatballs directly in the sauce, or do you bake or fry them first?
We bake them.
You do? Because
Yeah.
usually a lot of times it comes dry that way. So you guys really nail this.
Yeah, we actually fry them too. Growing up, my mom would always pan fry the meatballs. So I try my best to give that experience in the establishment while making 100 meatballs a day. Can't sit there and pan fry every single one. So we bake and then fry them.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, we're gonna bring on Guy Madsen right now, but I just have to say, I was at a judge's table. There were about 50, 60 judges there, but at my table there were 6. And to the person, when your meatball came around, this was the response. Ooh. Literally, it was an ooh. And that's everyone's, this was the final round. They were all good. So it's not like somebody had a bad meatball or a bad slice of pizza. Once it got to the final round, these were serious competitors with Toronto's is amazing. Mutz is great. These are great people with great experience.
Yeah.
But your meatball, I'm driving down and I'm buying your meatballs because I'm going to try to pick them apart and figure out how you do it. It was that good. So I want everybody, take a ride to South Toms River, go to Pasitos, Pacidough, and check out their pizza and definitely check out their meatballs. Anthony and Danielle. And what is your daughter's name?
This is Madsen, one of our 3
Hi,
little
Madsen.
Pasitos.
Oh, all the little Pasitos. Very good. Good to have you on. And we're going to definitely come down and visit you. We appreciate you so much. Congratulations, the winners of Pizza Bowl 5, both meatball and pizza. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You
Thanks
bet.
for having us.
Thank you. And let's go over now to the man behind Pizza Bowl 5, Guy Madsen. I don't know how he's still breathing after putting together this entire event. How do you do it? Doesn't it take you like the whole year to do it, Guy?
No, it doesn't, but it does take, better part of 6 or 7 weeks of, planning, orchestrating. Takes about a month of voting with our crew, our combined public Facebook groups, Jersey Pizza Joint, Jersey Sandwich Joints, about 230,000 members. And then, letting folks know that they won, orchestrating how they get there. Our celebrities, we do a taste of the Meadowlands for the places that don't make it so that they can come and provide some food for people to sample. We had a pizza truck outside we had over 250 pizzas at Pizza Bowl. We had over 2,000 meatballs for our attendees to enjoy and sample. Over 25 platters of food. No one could have left there claiming that there wasn't enough food, wasn't enough entertainment, wasn't enough excitement. And, besides on any given Saturday, anyone could win. And Patrido's is a great example of, the best pie won on that given day. We raised over $20,000 for Tunnels to Towers Foundation. And that raises our total in only 4 pizza bowls to over $50,000 to that great charity.
Amazing. What a great charity it is too. And we should emphasize the reason there were 4 pizza bowls was because we had the pandemic in between, obviously. But you guys, you do every time I go, and you can hear my voice is the way it is because of Pizza Bowl 5, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. You walk into to Red's in Carlstadt, it's just shoulder to shoulder human beings. It's unbelievable, but everybody has a smile on their face. You got the band, what's it called? Monkey? What was the name of the band?
Yeah, Aloha Monkey is our official band, and they play our anthem, Jersey Pizza Joint. We had also DJ Ralph Tunis upstairs. We do an upstairs VIP room. We had a cast members from Goodfellas, Sopranos, Bronx Tale, Gravesend, a new series on Amazon, and a bunch of other local celebrities. We had a gubernatorial candidate, Jack Citarelli, stop by to visit. the managing mayors of the Meadowlands. They come and vote in the final round. You were kind enough to be at your second Pizza Bowl as a judge in the final, and I would invite you to be at the third. We love having you. You're a great man, and we're really happy to have you back on the air in New Jersey. But it's just a fun day, and it's Pro Bowl weekend. There's nothing else going on in between the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So now it's Pizza Bowl weekend in New Jersey.
And you know what I love about this is that you highlight the hardworking Garden State restaurateurs, pizzeria owners who don't always get the recognition being in the shadow of New York and Philadelphia to the south. You think of, oh, Philly's a great eating town and New York's an amazing eating town, and they always lay claim to having the best of this and the best of that. Meanwhile, I think when people think of great New York pizza or great Philly pizza or other foods, cheesesteaks, etc., some of the best is actually right outside of Philly in New Jersey or right outside of New York in New Jersey. I'm from Lower New York in Westchester County near the Bronx. And I will tell you now, being a New Jersey resident since 2002, 2003, that I think New Jersey has by far the best pizza. And I know my New York friends and family are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I think the best pizza is here. And it takes an organization like yours to highlight the great pizza and sandwich places that we have in the Garden State, guy. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to go public here. We're going to, everyone says New York. Well, the birthplace of pizza in America was New York and in Brooklyn. And we're going to have a throwdown, a little pizza war between Jersey, our top 5 winners, against New York's most notable top 5 or 6 pizza joints. And that is to be scheduled by the end of the year with our partner and a sponsor for our foods. We're going to most likely have our first event in Brooklyn, and we're going to find out. We had a lot of Brooklyn people in our final round of voting, and they loved our pizza. These people move from Brooklyn to Staten Island to potentially New Jersey. They bring their traditions with us, and our food is as good as anyone, and we're going to put it up, and we're going to take home the trophy between the Battle of New York.
It's funny you say that, because if you talk to a lot of people, especially in that part of New Jersey near like Edison, et cetera, you just follow the line.
Central Jersey.
It's right. It's go along the south shore of Brooklyn. You go across into Staten Island, just keep going straight into that part of New Jersey. So you could see how the migrate, we call it the pizza migration. We should actually make a map, the pizza migration trail, how it made its way into New Jersey. So in essence, it's just the next generation of Brooklynites who made it to that part of New Jersey and brought the great pizza traditions with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. This is fantastic. And it was funny when some of the you had some of the folks from Brooklyn there on Saturday, and somebody made the comment, New Jersey has, in fact, it was Guy Travelese from Jersey 101.5.
Steve Travelese.
Excuse me. That's Steve. Steve, your guy. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm tired too.
That's
and he
okay.
made the comment. He said, New Jersey has the best pizza. And the Brooklyn contingents looked at each other like, I thought there was going to be a little bit of a fight at that moment, but there is going to
be a fight, but we're going to win it, and we're going to do it in the same format where people actually judge blind testing, and Jersey is going to come out on top.
I want to be part of that. You make sure I'm there, please, Guy.
I promise. I promise. Thank you.
And just because I have several restaurateurs who've since come up to me and asked, how can pizzeria owners take part next year? What is the process to get them started?
Yeah, so we start in the beginning of December and we run through Christmas, and it's a poll. So we list our name, the name and the town, and then people like the restaurateurs get behind it and ask their family, friends, and customers to go out and support them as those restaurants support the local community constantly. And the top 4 vote getters in North, Central, and South get invited and get a bid to Bake Off Live at Pizza Bowl. We're the only event that starts with a poll and actually ends with a live bake-off.
Amazing. Yeah, because if it's just polls all the way, you could just get a lot of friends and relatives to send in a lot of votes, right? But in this case, you actually have people from all walks. And by the way, I want to say something. The judges are serious as a heart attack.
Absolutely.
We're talking pizza and cheese and heart attack. The people at my table, when the slices came out, you didn't talk. The people were holding it, checking the crust, looking underneath, looking and making notes on their cards. They were very serious. And I'm glad that you have serious people judging, because they took their role very, very seriously because this is somebody's livelihood. I mean,
This
it's
is
a big
critically
deal.
important to these families. Every person, every competitor, we had over 23 competitors. They worked so hard throughout the year. This is so important to them. They're all winners for being at Pizza Bowl,
Yes.
but the winners that made the top three should be celebrated. They work hard, and I'm just happy for everyone that attended.
And I will tell you, Guy, and I mean this. And we used to own a pizzeria. We had other restaurants as well. We had a luncheonette, et cetera. As I put on my critical hat, I did not taste a bad slice of pizza. There was even one slice with the rush of getting them out that was slightly burned on the bottom, and even that tasted outstanding. Like I looked at it, I said, it's going to be bitter. And even that, I ate the whole piece. Everybody in the finals was amazing, and any one of them in there outright could have won. And it really came down to a few key things. The meatballs as well, delicious. But I do have to say that Pasito deserves to win. They absolutely nailed both pizza and meatballs like nobody's business. It's going to be
They,
interesting to see
they
next
better
year.
get ready because they're about to get swamped. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Hey, I'm going to bring all my contingency down. We're going to South Toms River to check them out. Pizza Bowl 5 in the record books. A very tired Guy Madsen. Thank you so much. Now you go get ready for Pizza Bowl 6. Jersey Pizza joins Guy Madsen. And by the way, they can go on your Facebook and join your Facebook group, right? For both
Yeah,
Jersey
look,
sandwiches and
yep,
pizza.
Jersey Pizza Joints, Jersey Sandwich Joints. We're a public Facebook group. We're a positive group, not a negative group. And we would love to have you.
Right. It's not about picking. It's about saying, oh my God, I just had this great eggplant parm. You should check it out, and et cetera. It's not about saying, oh,
Yeah,
really? You should try this.
if you like a place, share it. If you don't, keep scrolling. There's Yelp and other mechanisms. It's not the time to beat up on a small business. If you don't like something, keep scrolling. And if you love something, share it with the rest of us.
And everybody could have a bad day at a small business. So cut them
No
some
doubt.
slack. They work very hard. Look at that husband, wife, and children working to the bone, exhausted to make that happen. So
Absolutely.
that's what it's about. Guy Madsen, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to call you my friend.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet. Have a great day, bud. It is 8:45, and we're going to take a quick 1-minute break. And meteorologist Mike Favetta will be back with a check of the Garden State forecast on New Jersey. Don't go away. Twenty-nine degrees at 8:47. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the Garden State forecast after a little snow last night, but it's starting to get mild really fast. Good morning
It
to you,
is.
Mike.
And I brought the tool that you were mentioning before.
That's it, the food mill.
Pasadura. This is it. Yeah.
Pasadura, that's it.
So if you were wondering when we're talking about milled tomatoes, you put the tomatoes in the top, you spin it around like Ken said, and they fall at the bottom without the seeds. So
And that's why their sauce did not taste bitter, and they didn't have to artificially add sugar to make it taste sweet. It was naturally sweet because the seeds were taken out. Look at you, Mike.
It's
Thank you.
something that some people know about. It's a little secret, here and there. We'll share more secrets throughout the week. How about that?
Love it.
Through the rest of the day. Well, there's no secret about the snow. Ken, you woke up, you looked outside and went, whoa, a little bit of snow fell last night. It happened just after sunset, before midnight. And with that little bit of snow that coated mostly northern New Jersey, really had to be north of 287, the south end of 287, north of Route 78, and certainly 195 to pick up any light accumulation. And those accumulations were very light, maybe 1.1 inches up there in Morris County and eastern Passaic, back up toward Bergen County, 1.4 inches toward Closter and Teaneck, and right down the Hudson River, upwards of an inch toward a half-inch measured at Newark. That was the snow that came through last night, mixing at times with some ice when it crossed the Hudson, and then it cleared out by midnight. So throughout this morning, we start a little bit sunny, but gradually see the clouds take over as that brighter shade of white showing the thickening cloud deck through this afternoon. It also means a milder finish to the day. We'll make it up to 50 in Point Pleasant, 51 in Toms River, 51 in Freehold, and back over toward Princeton and Trenton, 52 for you with a mix of clouds and sun. So not terribly cold considering our average high is 41 degrees. We'll beat that by at least 10 degrees today. It does turn colder tomorrow, and with that, notice the wind pushing in a milder breeze from the south. The wind switches direction later on tonight, blowing in from the north and west, and that will promote not only a gustier breeze, but a colder wind direction, and that also means quite a bit of a wind chill, too, with that wind making it feel like the teens early on. So a little bit of an extra feel of cold winter weather coming in throughout tomorrow. Notice the 20s later on in the overnight and then early on in tomorrow afternoon, and especially for Wednesday, we're back down in the teens and even single digits in northern New Jersey. 19 degrees in Toms River later tomorrow night, 14 waking up on Wednesday morning in Long Branch. So there's just enough cold air to allow for some snow to start on Wednesday. I know, another round of snow after that cold, clear air rushes back in tomorrow, making it feel like winter. Notice that by early Thursday or Wednesday morning, you see that stripe of blue work across central and southern New Jersey. That's basically this precipitation riding the jet stream, entering New Jersey very quickly and likely putting down a little bit of a coating throughout the day on Wednesday. But as the rest of the system moves in, it slowly works its way northward and gives us some of that cold winter weather throughout the course of the day. So here it is, Thursday by 5 a.m. You see the shade of blue mixing with the pink. That's the sleet and freezing rain and snow all working through northern New Jersey during the morning rush, whereas in southern New Jersey, like toward Cape May and Atlantic County, that's likely changing to rain by then. So a little bit milder weather works up, but not before enough snow falls throughout the morning on Thursday. So it's one to watch because it likely times out with the morning rush and lasts through the rest of the middle of the day Thursday. I think we're quiet into Friday, but Saturday has another round of snow and ice that moves in, and this one could last a little bit longer with more prolonged ice and freezing rain and snow throughout the course of the day on Saturday. So a lot of weather every few days. This weekend, specifically Saturday, the wintry day. I think the day that travel, not ideal, but at least it clears out by Sunday with less of a chance of ice, as temperatures will be up in the mid-40s and some lingering showers by then. So kind of a mixed bag each and every day, with the cold returning tomorrow, Ken, and then we turn our attention to the midweek of snow and ice before more winter weather gets us this weekend. A lot to talk about, a lot to keep an eye on here.
This is that time, right? February, you always have that little change before we get into the slightly warming period in March. But one thing I did notice in your long range is you don't see those bitter cold single digits. And yeah, we will get the wind though, right?
Yeah.
The wind sticks around in February, unfortunately. But all right, meteorologist Mike Favetta, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you. You too.
You bet. All right, 8:52 is our time right now. A family in Newark is mourning the loss of a 9-year-old child, a little child brutally murdered in a barrage of bullets outside his grandparents' home. This happened on Friday. Little Yassine Morrison's father was dropping off that child and his sister so the two could stay with their grandparents when the bullets started to fly. Yassine was struck and killed. His father was grazed and is expected to be okay. So far, no arrests. 8:53, the 6 passengers traveling on that medical jet that crashed Friday evening in Philadelphia have all been identified. All 6 died on impact with the ground. They are Captain Alan Alejandro Montoya Perales, co-pilot Josue de Jesus Juarez Juarez, Dr. Raul Mesa Arredondo, paramedic Rodrigo Lopez Padilla, Valentina Guzman Murillo, and Lisbeth Murillo Osuna. The 6 were identified by Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. That was the company that was flying young Valentina on board the Learjet 55 from Shriners Children's Hospital in Northeast Philadelphia back to her native Mexico. All 6 victims on the plane were Mexican citizens. There was a 7th person who was killed on the ground, but that person has not yet been identified. And several others on the ground were hurt from that crash. They're being treated in area hospitals. Not yet known what caused the jet to crash. The plane was nearly 50 years old, but authorities have not yet said if that may have played a part in the crash. First responders have not yet found the so-called black boxes, which they hope will eventually help determine the cause of the crash. 8:54, the winner of Best Country Album of the Year goes to Beyonce? Yes, Beyonce. The award caught many in the audience by surprise at the 67th Grammy Awards show held last night in Los Angeles, but it was Kendrick Lamar who dominated with 5 wins overall. It had been feared the recent spate of wildfires was going to force the show to be moved or canceled. The Recording Academy appropriately had the show open with a rendition of Angelino Randy Newman's song, I Love LA, performed by Dawes and backed up by John Legend, Sheryl Crow, Brad Paisley, Brittany Howard, and St. Vincent. Music icon Taylor Swift was nominated in 6 categories. She was also a presenter. She was vying for her 5th Album of the Year win with the Tortured Poets Department, which topped the Billboard 200 for 17 non-consecutive weeks. Meanwhile, anti-ICE protests brought out hundreds of LA police. The protests forced the closure of at least one Los Angeles area freeway. Police called the protests an unlawful assembly after a number of people gathered, started to throw objects at police. 8:55, Pete Hegseth heads to the southern border today. That's his first trip as defense secretary. He will highlight military support for U.S. Customs and Border Protection at Fort Bliss, Texas. The Trump administration is about to start deportation flights to the naval station at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and it is already using military aircraft deportation flights to Latin America. It was first called a conspiracy theory. Then more and more information came out suggesting there may be more than just a conspiracy there. See, a number of individuals present back on January 6th, 2021 at the riots suggested there was a number of FBI agents among the crowds of people, and that some of those agents may have been stirring up people, plants put there intentionally to instigate the crowd. It's a charge that the FBI initially denied outright and then said, well, a few agents may have been there, but they were there on their own, not officially. Then the FBI changed their tune, saying a larger number of agents may have been there after all. But the FBI stopped short from saying why those agents were there. The question is, did the FBI plant agents among the January 6th crowds to cause a riot so that President Trump could later be blamed? Meanwhile, President Trump has tweeted from the day before, or had tweeted, I should say, that the gathering, that he wanted nothing but peace there. And on the 6th itself, he said to everybody that they should peacefully march to the Capitol. Now the Trump Justice Department wants to get to the bottom of everything. Was this a deliberate secret plot by the FBI? Over 1,000 FBI agents from all over the country have been ordered to fill out affidavits regarding their involvement, if any, that day. And they must return those surveys by tomorrow afternoon. No word on what could happen to any agents who don't honestly and fully cooperate. There are thousands and thousands of hours of videotape collected that day, presumably with lots of faces clearly visible. So it is advisable that any FBI agents take the time to appropriately fill out those forms. Again, not known at this point what will happen to the people who say they were present or who may know more than they were letting on to initially. 8:57, for decades, South Africa treated its Black citizens extremely poorly, leading to a worldwide outcry, demanded equality among all their citizens. Nelson Mandela, previously imprisoned by the government, was released, rose to lead the nation. Fast forward a few decades, apparently now there's discrimination against white South Africans. The Trump administration is saying he is cutting off aid to that country unless they change their tune. Have a wonderful day.